Hey, it's Ryan, again, because, I have to make videos. Another D&D video. How surprising. So, you did all your homework, you figured out all the math, but now you don't have a character? That's like going to a store and forgetting your card. It makes no sense, so let me help you. All you need is a good list, all you need is a good backstory, and all you need is good character design. When I say make a list, I don't mean in the sense of, oh, there's very few things I can do. I mean it in a sense of, what do you want? And write that off and somehow blend it with what you already have. When you make your list, start off with how tall are they? How much do they weigh? Stuff like that. What color are they? What race are they? There's so much to do. If you saw the stream, whenever I was making Tricky, you saw that I was making a list of that it's a Dampier, that's the race, that it's a Metalhead, so that's the, like, what they do, like, background, kind of. It has a bat as a pet, that, I'm making it work. Steampunk attire, the colors are black and blood red. It talks about how it's level 10, it's a level 7 druid, level 3 rogue. That is how you make lists. Whereas also if you're making backgrounds, you want to make lists so you know where to build off. One of the biggest things to your character is their becoming. What is their backstory? What is their background? Backgrounds are very important in D&D because without a background, your backstory is just kind of there. So, for instance, Tricky's background is he's an entertainer. He performs concerts. This feeds into his backstory. Now his backstory, I'm not going to spoil it, it's pretty deep because when you build stuff up over and over, that's when you start to understand that, hey, making a backstory is almost just as important as actually making the physical character. Making a backstory is one of the hardest things to D&D because sometimes you just don't know where to start. You make a cool character and then you're like, now what? And I struggle all the time with it. And sometimes I'll pump out the most deep backstories ever and then be like, well, where did I start from? And I never know. Getting that ball rolling is one of the hardest things to do. But when you do get it rolling, then that's when you lock in. That's when you are like, okay, I know what to do. For instance, Meslov, his dad signed a deal with the devil. And the devil is not only affecting the father, he's also affecting Meslov himself, turning him into demons, giving him more wings and a longer tail, because he's a tiefling. But now he's turned into a whole demon. That's besides the point. What I'm saying is, that's the backstory that gives Meslov, my main character, something to work for, is because there's outside NPCs, there's outside situations. You have to think of all that stuff to build. Same with my newest character, Tricky. Whenever he got brainwashed into joining a band because he had so much desire, he joined a band where you have to do like a blood ritual where you have to get bit by the main druid queen, but she's a vampire. So now the whole band is like vampires and it's like a bond, you know? That is something that is deep because I didn't know how to get that ball rolling, but whenever I did get that ball rolling, I was like, give Tricky Stockholm, make him a vampire, make the druid queen some evil person that manipulates. That is how you make a good backstory, is by having outside sources, having NPCs that are very important, and it's not the traditional, oh, my parents died in war, or the whole, I left home to go explore. Those are good plot lines. But you need something deep, you know? It's like reading a coloring book versus reading, like, a novel. Moral of the story, I just yapped. Make a good background, because you have your character, you have your background. These are the two perfect things that work together. And now, the best part, because role-playing in D&D is what the game is built around. Make sure your character is someone you want to roleplay. Make sure you want to do voices for them. If they make you want to jump up and dance around the table, do it. That means you've made a good character. If you want to be edgy at the table and be like, I don't trust any of you, I'll put a knife in your back. Good for you, because that is how you make a D&D character, is whenever you feel like you can play them. My biggest thing about a character is you want to play them, or else that's not a good character. If you cannot be them at the table, that's not a good character. For example, Albrida. I didn't like him that much. He wasn't that good of a character. What I did was I told my DM, hey, can I kill him off? Make a new character. So we talked that out. Albrida died. I made a monk called Yoka. He was a minotaur. And that was the most fun character I've ever had, because his whole thing was he had a ring that did it was like a sunblast ring, and he kept getting blind. My whole thing was being like, at the table, I was closing my eyes, I was joking as Yoka, I felt as if I was that minotaur monk right there, because it gave me something to work for. And that is how you make a good character, is if you have something to do. To start off, basically, just make a list. Talk about your attributes. Are you ripped? Are you skinny? Are you wide? Are you tall? What race are you? What color are you? Does your armor have feathers on it? Does it have war marks on it? Like Bruce, his guns were silver and gold. And then talk about your backstory. Talk about who developed with you, who made you, or who pushed you to where you are. Was it a family member? Was it a best friend that you lost? What made you to where you are? And finally, for your last tip, want to play the character. Almost feel the urge to be like, oh, I wish I was them. Because that is how you make a good character, is it pays off. It makes you feel like, oh, I want to be them so bad. Making a character in D&D can be one of the hardest things. Lack of motivation can hit it. Not knowing even where to start can hit. But whenever you get that burst of motivation, you suddenly realize that D&D has no limitations. Whenever you realize that there is no limits to what you can do in D&D outside of base rules, then you'll be like, whoa, I can make anything happen. And that is where I leave you off to make your D&D characters. This is Ryan.